Hello. Welcome back. It's so good to see you. So, today we're going to be doing another book review. And this is a book that was given to me by my mother. And it is titled Here One Moment. Written by Liane Moriarty. I don't know. I'm the worst at pronouncing names. So, yeah. This book is huge. Huge. Let me just tell you how many pages. 501. 501 pages. It's huge. It's huge. So let me just read the inside. I think it's just one side. Is it two sides? Oh, it's actually two sides. Okay. Let me read the description of the book and then I will tell you what I thought of this book. Okay, the inside cover, it says, if you knew your future, would you try to fight fate? I don't know. Would you? Okay, it said, aside from a delay, there will be no problems. The flight will be smooth. It will land safely. Everyone who gets on the plane will get off, but almost all of them will be forever changed. Because on this ordinary, short, domestic flight, something extraordinary happens. People learn how and when they are going to die. For some, there are deaths as far in the future. Deaths are far in the future, age 103. And they laugh, but for 6 passengers, their predicted deaths are not far away at all. How did they know this? There were ostensibly, I don't know what that says, more interesting people on the flight. The bride and the groom, the jittery, the possibly famous woman, the giant Hemsworth-esque guy who looks like an off-duty superhero, the frazzled, gorgeous flight attendant, but none would become as famous as the Death Lady. Not a single passenger or crew member will later recall noticing her board the plane. She wasn't exceptionally old or young, rude or polite. She wasn't drunk or nervous or pregnant. Her appearance and demeanor were unremarkable. But what she did on that flight was truly remarkable. A few months later, one passenger dies exactly as she predicted. Then 2 more passengers die again, as she said they would. Soon, no one is thinking this is simply an entertaining story at a cocktail party. If you were told you had only a certain amount of time left to live, would you do things differently? Would you try to dodge your destiny? The author's Here One Moment is a brilliantly constructed tale that looks at free will and destiny, grief and love, and the endless struggle to maintain certainty and control in an uncertain world. A modern-day Jane Austen who humorously skewers social mores? I don't know. While spinning a web of mystery. The author asks profound questions in her newest I can't wait to find out what happens next novel. Okay. First of all, this book is huge. Okay. Let me show you how many chapters. Okay, there is an acknowledgement. There's an epilogue. 126 126 chapters. My gosh. Sorry, there's a loud truck. The chapters are shorter. They're not as short as the other author that I like. What is that author's name? I can't think of the author's name, but yeah. But some of the chapters are literally one paragraph. So yeah, this book is about basically a plane ride. Everybody gets on, and there's this I don't want to say old woman, but there's an older woman who she just gets up. It's almost as though she's like in a trance or something. She gets up and she walks through the plane front to back and just starts talking to every single passenger and saying, I expect you're gonna die like this and you're gonna be this age. And some people, she's freaking out, and some people are like, oh, this is fun, do me next, which I would probably be one of those people that was like, ooh, tell me, but some people were like, oh my god, this woman is crazy, she's lost her mind. Some people think she's psychic, and some people are like angry about it, and she's like, you can't test fate, this is the deal. And then the flight is over, everybody walks off, and they have to continue their lives with this information that the old woman says. It sounds interesting, and I'm just gonna say it. This was a very hard book to read. Not because it was like, whoa, so like hard truth and stuff. No, it was physically hard to read this book, okay? Because there are so many characters in it, and the way that it's written, you don't know. Each chapter is about a different person, and there's like 50 people in this book, okay? And you never know who this chapter is about until you get like halfway through the chapter, and you're like, okay, because you have to remember every single person's name, and it's really, really hard. And it's not like one of those books where it's like there's 3 characters and like, or 2 characters where it's like this chapter is from this person's point of view and this person's from this point, and so you want to finish one chapter to get to the next, so it's like a real quick page turner type thing. No, there are so many characters in the book that like you're constantly having to stay active and try and remember, like, okay, this character, this is their storyline, and blah blah blah, and then you don't get to that character again until like 6 or 8 chapters later, and you're like, wait, what was their story? Like, it was really hard, and this book made me feel like I was just stupid because I was like, wait a minute, what was their storyline? Okay, but when you get about halfway through the book, you start to get the gist of, oh yeah, I remember this character, I remember that character. And so once you get past the difficulty of the book and you start to get into the flow of it, which is really, really hard to do, it does start to get interesting because you get to become involved in these characters' lives. Like, a big portion of it is part of the plane. And then once they get off the plane, you get to see how these predictions have affected the lives of the passengers. And some of them it's good, some of them it's bad, some of them it's like very emotional, especially when the first person dies. in the exact way that this older woman predicted. The exact age, the exact prediction has come true. So once that happens, and the way that it happened, I don't want to give it away, but the way that the first person happened died, it was very public. So everyone in the world saw how this person died. And the other passengers, there was no way for them not to take notice. And this scared them. This was like, oh, especially for the ones who were told they were going to die at their current age or next year. Quite scary, because when you know, maybe not the specific date, but the age and how you're going to die, and when that time is going to come up very soon, it really opens your eyes, So yeah, but what I didn't get really invested in any of the characters except one, and it was the older woman who was doing the predictions, because her part is bigger in the book, because it's like every other chapter is her talking, but it takes you a while to realize that it's her talking. And you don't find out her name until halfway through the book, and you're like, who is this woman? But you end up finding out about her life. With most of the character arcs in this book, you find out about their life now. But with the older woman, you find out about her life in the past. And it turns out that her mother was I don't want to say famous, but she made a career out of, I guess, being psychic or a fortune teller, that kind of thing. And you just get to find out her past, like her life before the plane ride, everything leading up to the plane ride, who she is as a person, her state of mind, because when she gets off the plane, it's as though she has no memory of anything that happened. So she was kind of like in this mystical trance, and then she finds out what she has said to people, and it's interesting. That's the only part that I liked was her storyline. I don't know if I recommend the book, just because it is so hard to read. So hard. Okay, so let me tell you my mom's review of the book when she gave it to me. She said, oh, I got you this book. She had already read it. I think she got it at Costco, and there was this big sticker on it with like this Costco price, and I was like, because I was trying to read this, so I had to take the sticker off. Let me read this. It says, a riveting story so wild you don't know how she'll land it, and then she does on a dime. I guess that's a play on words because they were on a plane. I don't know. But yeah, so I had to take this big sticker off. It drove me nuts. Anyway, my mom said, she's like, oh, I already read it. She's like, and I don't like it. I'm like, why are you giving it to me? And she's like, well, because I enjoyed reading it, but I wasn't happy with the ending. And I'm like, what? And she's like, well, maybe you'll like it when you read it. Maybe you'll like the ending. She's like, I just didn't. So I didn't have high hopes going into it. And then I was like, what? And the next time I saw my mom, I was like, Mom, this book took me, I don't even know how long to read, because it was so difficult to read. So difficult to read. But I told her, I was like, Mom, what is up with this? Because it's so hard. It's so hard to get into because there's so many people and it's just really difficult to read. And she's like, yeah, you'll get used to it. So she was right about that. I did eventually get used to it, but it took some time because I had to remember what character was this, because I'm terrible at names, you know. So that was really hard. But so like I don't know if I would even attempt to. Oh, she wrote Big Little Lies. 9 Perfect Strangers. What? All her things have been made into like shows. That's interesting. I would be interested to see this as a show. Like, as hard as it was to read, this would be a very good show. Because I wouldn't have to worry about people's names. I could just remember their faces, you know? Interesting. This is a brand new book. I thought this was an older book, but it's brand new. I think it came out like this year. I forgot where I was going with that. Yeah, copyright 2024. But it took me a really hard time to get into it, and I don't know, it was just, to me it was difficult to read, but I did like the older woman part of the book. I was very interested in her story, in her past, and how she became the way that she was. Now the ending, like, see, look at this. Look at this. This is one whole chapter. That's very short, right? So, the ending. I'm not going to give the ending away. But I gotta tell you, I didn't like the ending. My mom was right. Which is why I don't recommend this book. Like, if you're a fan of her, I've never heard of her, but if you're a fan of her other books, you'll probably be a fan of this. Because when you look at it as a whole, yeah, it's a good book. It's a good book. And I feel like it was supposed to be like a book to make you take a look at your life and, you know, live every day like it's your last or something, but it's like, I don't know, it's just the way that it ended was just like, I thought it was one thing, and then it turns out it's not that thing, and that kind of makes it disappointing. And to me, it kind of makes life disappointing, and that I don't like that. I feel like this book is supposed to make people appreciate life and be like, oh, you know, like, life is great, and, you know, appreciate every day that you have, and blah blah blah. But I didn't get that feeling because of the way that it ended. It changed what it was. It changed what this book was to me. And then it made me just be like, well, life is kind of crap. Like, ugh. And this, I don't know. Maybe it was just my frame of mind at the time when I read it, but it's just like, I feel like it would be better as a show or a movie or something, but reading it was just like, I just felt empty after I read it. I've never felt that way after reading a book, but I was just like, okay, okay, okay. And then you find out something and you're like, wait, what? And then you're just left there in this empty void of like disappointment. And then I don't know, it was just, I don't want to say it was heartbreaking, because it wasn't heartbreaking. It was just like, you're just like, oh, okay, cool, I hate everything now. I don't know, I feel like that's just me though, although it might not just be me, because my mom's actual review was, I enjoyed reading it, I hated the ending. I hated reading it until about halfway through. Then I got into it, and then I hated the ending, and it was just like, what the hell? So if you can get past the difficulty of reading it, I don't think you can get past the crappy ending. Like, maybe the ending isn't crap. Maybe it's just something that you have to accept. Just like life. You just have to accept it, because that is life, you know? But that's why I got like, just, I felt so empty inside. Like, well, I don't like that about life. Don't. But again, I think that it's supposed to be an uplifting book that is like, appreciate every day, because you're only here one moment. You're only here one moment. I don't know. This book did not, look at this chapter. It's one page. I'm going to read you this chapter. The flap of a seagull's wing and everything changes. Okay. The short chapters that are like this is the older woman speaking. Or you hear her thoughts or something like that. I don't know. So the best part of the book is the shortest part of the book. It's like, I don't care about any of the other people. I just care about the older lady. And her part is like the smallest. So, I mean, I'm not giving this a good review. I don't recommend it just because of the way that it made me feel. But if they make it into a book, I mean, not into a book, into a show or a movie, I'll 100% watch it. Because watching it, like, I feel like when, this is the one time that I'm like, I think the show would be better. I think the show would be better than the book. And, like, who says that? The book is always better. Not in this case. Because the movie, if you get the right actors, would be really good. Because it could make you feel the emotions of all the different characters. The older lady. Like, and, like, the music that could go with it. And just the atmosphere that seeing it come to life would do. You know? But the book is just, there's too many stories in it. There's too many characters. Maybe if there were less characters, I could get more involved in their lives. Okay, I was involved in another section. It was the newlywed couple. I was interested to see how things turned out, only based on the way that the bride was told she was going to die. The way she was going to die was very like, what the hell? Because it involved her husband that she just married. Something very bad was going to be happening with her husband. And you're like, what are you talking about? They just got married. They're full in love. Like, how can this be? What? And you're like, I need to see how this chick is going to die. You know, like, how is that going to unfold? Everyone else, I was like, who cares? Except for that couple. And then you find out the stuff at the end, and you're like, like, I was aggravated and mad, and then it just felt empty at the end. Like, so I'm so sorry if you are a huge fan of this author, or if you're a huge fan of the book, but you gotta understand, everyone's entitled to their opinions, so don't take mine. You know, I'm just doing a probably unrelaxing ASMR video, but I love doing these, and I know a lot of you really enjoy them as well. These aren't my most popular videos, but I enjoy making them, and I know a few of you enjoy them as well. So I don't recommend the book. If it becomes a show, I recommend the show. Before I even watch it, I recommend the show. I know, it's like, how can you recommend the show if you didn't like the book? I feel like it would be a better show than a book, just because it wouldn't be as difficult to read. This was so hard. It was so hard to read. So hard. And I feel like actors could make it come to life better. And maybe the ending, I don't know. I feel like the ending in a show would be uplifting. In the book, not so much, man. Not so much. But the cover is gorgeous. I absolutely love the cover art. I love it. But also it was very difficult to read because it was hell heavy. It was so heavy. It was so heavy. I had to take the jacket off to read the book because it was awkward. Very, very awkward. But anyway, so I don't know if you want to read this. I wouldn't. I'm not keeping this book. I'm never gonna read it again because the ending was just so bad. It wasn't a bad ending the way that you're thinking it is. It just left me feeling empty and like, I guess that's life. Like, just I don't know how else to describe it. If you've read the book, you'll probably understand what I mean by that. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the page turning and the book tapping. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.